Good morning once again. Welcome back to the show, and it's brought to you by Vodafone, Melcom, Sasso, Dynamite, Voltic, and of course Lipton, who are sponsors for this particular segment, the newspaper review. Of course, Lipton tea is still the world's #1 tea brand. We'll take a look at our newspaper front pages this morning, and then I'll tell you exactly who my guests are for this beautiful Thursday morning. The Daily Graphic has a picture of the president, of course, looking very cool. Looks like a DJ. Anyway, return to work and continue negotiating. President urges striking doctors. That's the headline that is accompanying that picture. The story is on page 3. When you turn to page 16 of the paper, Bank of Ghana extends moratorium to DKM for additional 30 days. And 6 killed in Chibodom gun battle. That's also on page 16. Government gives credit to young entrepreneurs. Pages 32 and 33 have that story on the back page. Solar plants for Prom Polyclinic, and communities along White Volta warned of Bagre Dam spillage. We'll be talking about that in a jiffy, and so do stay with us. We'll go to the Ghanaian Times front page. Clearing agent shot dead. Page 3 has the story, and guess what? Ghana to supply water to Togo's communities. And the question is, do we have enough water in Ghana? Well, we understand that the coverage is increasing. So if you don't have it as yet, hopefully you get it soon. Compensation for free zone enclave lands. Western region community demands cash from chief. That's on page 3. Africa must invest more in research. That's on the back page of the Ghanaian Times newspaper for today. I'll look for the Daily Guide newspaper. Nana appeals to doctors. American murderer, a serial killer. I'm a living goat. Mahama speaks, and 7 shot dead in Chibodom. Very sad one there. On the back page, GFA rubbishes, match fixing claims, and Mahatma strikes again. And that's Mahatma Otu. He plays for FC Brian. It's FC Brian. All right. So that's the Daily Guide newspaper. One more paper, and then we can go into a discussion. The Today newspaper says Christians must live upright life, and GN Bank fresh pack. Okay, that's very commercial. NPP chair demolishes church, fights chief over land. That's the Today newspaper. Well, let me introduce my guest to you. On my left is Alhaji Haruna Rashid Ibrahim. He is the Executive Director for Development Challenge. He was here last week. It's good to see you once again.
Same here.
Welcome. And also Duncan Amwa, who's the Executive Secretary for the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers. It's good to have you here. And Dr. Ahmed Chenapo, Senior Lecturer. Are you still on strike?
On strike.
We are.
He's from the University of Education, whenever. It's good to have you here,
Thank you,
Dr. Chenapo. All right, so we'll go straight to the Daily Graphic, page 3, and I'm sure all of us listened to the president's interview yesterday on radio. If you missed it, President John Dramani Mahama has called on public sector doctors to call off their strike and return to the negotiation table, and promised that the government will negotiate in good faith. Describing the strike as illegal, he said nobody must die because of an illegal strike. The strike is illegal, absolutely illegal, he said, and added that what was due the doctors would be given to them when negotiations were successful. A bit of a background there. Public sector doctors have been on strike over their conditions of service. The General Assembly of the GMA will meet tomorrow to take a decision on their actions so far, including whether to carry through their resolve to resign en masse from tomorrow if their demands are not met. Surprisingly, we talked about the doctors extensively last week, and I had the same men with me here. The only one missing is the medical doctor.
He's still on strike anyway.
Well, legitimately, for some concerns, they find,
Is it legitimate?
very essential. Well, they think it's legitimate. Who am I to question that? Dr. Jinapa, I'll start with you.
Well, I think
you listened to the president yesterday.
Yes, I did.
Okay. What did you make of his posture as he talked about the situation with the doctors?
I think first of all, let me say good morning to your cherished viewers. Nana, last week we met here. I think we had a very fruitful and frank discussion. Unfortunately, Dr. Bayi is not here. And when I got here, the first thing I asked was whether he was coming. But if you look at what has been going on, you agree with me that the president has been center stage in this whole strike action. Most times you find the Minister of Health with Labor and Finance doing a negotiation. But in this particular instance, the president has been very much involved. And you look at his posture, even though his demeanor, characteristic of him has been that of a calm person, but he's very straightforward. If you quite remember, right when this strike action was declared by doctors, the president happened to be at a conference organized by the Nurses and Midwives Council, who are, as a matter of fact, auxiliary workers when it comes to the health sector. And he told them point blank that, look, I'm not going to approve anything of this nature which is not captured in the budget. Of course, most people took him on, and that was where we even got to know that the demands of the doctors was not for 2015, but for 2016. I'm a little bit worried about the way things are unfolding, in the sense that I would have wished that by this time, as I said, we met last week, by this time we should have seen, some progress being made. But it looks as if both parties are taking entrenched positions, and it's even getting into a period of what, a deadlock. You remember what happened at Techima Holy Family Hospital, where 14 doctors were sacked. Tomorrow, I understand the doctors are going to have a meeting, and based on the roadmap that they gave, tomorrow is a day that they are supposed to resign and block. So, if you look at the entrenched positions that have been taken by both parties, whether legitimate or not, and each of them follows what he or she puts as a threat, what happens? Because government has issued a fiat that, look, if you don't go to work, you are not going to be paid. And that includes us. When I heard that you don't go to work, you are not paid. Even the 1 month pay, how am I able to manage it? Not to talk of not being paid. But I think it's a very serious issue. And I would wish that this issue, even though it's something that does not inure to us as a country in terms of our development, it should be an avenue for these issues of strike to be solved once and for all. Because I've heard people say it's illegal. The president himself has said it's illegal. But at the end of the day, and I have always said that, look, this issue is not just about conditions of service. It's about what is entailed in the conditions of service. And I don't know. The president is in a better position, but he seems determined, and he seems to have taken an entrenched position, and it looks as if the position that he's taking probably, and he even said that he doesn't care. He can do this to the peril of what? Him winning the elections. I strongly believe that, as most people have said, they need to go back to the negotiation table. There's no doubt about it. The ordinary person is the one who is what? Who is suffering. And I happen to have listened to some people who have even said that, look, if this thing is for next year, and at least you've gone on strike for 2 weeks, it shows how serious you are as a people or as a group. So why don't you go back, negotiate, and at least people will give you the benefit of doubt that for the sake of the ordinary person, you went back, but government has not more or less lived up to its part of what? The bargain. So I hope tomorrow something good comes out of this whole meeting that they are going to have. Because, of course, anybody who belongs to an association of this sort knows that it's the General Assembly that normally gives the executive committee the mandate. And most of these doctors are people who are close to us. They are friends. They see what is going on. You go to certain communities, the doctor is even more powerful and more influential than the district chief executive, because he's the lifeline of the community. People come to them for medical care, and they even happen to foot their bills. So they are not people from outside. They are people that we grew up with, people who are family members. And I think they in as much as they have a genuine case, in as much as they have a case, they should look at the human factor and go back to work.
Duncan, well, it will be pretty suicidal if these doctors follow through their threat to resign from tomorrow.
Well, I would want to call a spade a spade. Bluntly speaking, I still do not think they have a very good case for the sort of action they have taken. If you want to punish the politician, I would say you could have a caveat that says no GMA member would attend to a politician who falls ill within the period of negotiation if indeed they do not attend to our needs. But when you use the generality of the common man, the average person out there on the street who doesn't really have a say in how much you bargain for, what you get, what you don't get, if you are punishing these common ordinary people on the street such they could not have access to medical care, some would need to go for routine checks, some are diabetics, they have all kinds of conditions that would need medical attention, and because you deserve better, as in their claim, you would want to use these human lives as a bargaining, card. That for some of us is pretty much unfortunate. Of course, everybody else in this country deserves better. If you ask me, I would insist the teachers also deserve a lot more than they actually do get. And if you give something to the teacher, you're not going to forget the police and the military person who also put their lives, whilst you and I go to bed, they will have to patrol and do stuff. So economically, it has a rippling effect. It's a cycle. Once you see to what the doctors are demanding immediately, you are opening a floodgate of some sort where other labor unions would also come looking for enhanced or improved, conditions. I have heard on several platforms that the talk of doctors not having conditions of service is neither here nor there, and I tend to subscribe to that, because in the end, if there's no condition of service, Dr. Jinapo here knows how much he's expecting at the end of the month, how much of that was actually for clothing, how much of that was actually for rent, how much was that for fuel. So the mere fact they expect something at the end of the month, which keeps coming, it keeps repeating. It is not as if this month you get 1,000, the following month is 3,000. There's some basic condition which sort of pays for the kind of service you render. Now you are looking for a codified, document that says all that you deserve, whilst you practice, should be spelled out in the document. That cannot be varied by this government, any other government, so that it becomes something every medical officer enjoys. But whilst you're doing this, the public would have gone along with you if, like indeed Dr. Jinapo said, you had shown good faith. You had gone to the negotiating table and say, look, indeed, we are asking for 150%. If we are able to get even 50% plus of what we are asking for, we would be very happy, and then we could go back and come back another 5 years for further negotiations. But we didn't see that. The moment the document was tendered in to government, there has been that threat, government should do this, government should do that. And I feel sad if you continue to give your employer the sort of timelines and deadlines that these doctors were giving their employer. It's quite scary. It's as if you don't...
Because they've been having the conversation for so long and they were not seeing any headway. So they had to come in with their own timelines to demand what they think is rightfully theirs.
Nana, you have a right to demand. But indeed, if you are demanding for what I cannot offer...
Well, we haven't seen what government says it can offer.
Government has given a final proposal, as far as I'm concerned. That was Sunday, right? The final meeting they worked out.
Yes. Exactly.
Yes.
But all this while, at the time their demands were even leaked, did we see a counter proposal?
You see, Nana, I would insist, and I repeat, the demands were leaked only at a time when the public was sort of asking government to pay them, because they had already gone on the strike. It was like 2 days into their strike when the public sentiment and anger was going towards government. That says, if you can afford to pay ministers, if you can afford to pay the other political players X, Y, Z amount, pay the doctors what is due. Until that document was made public, most of us would have gone on the same tangent, pay the doctors what they demand. But indeed, you and I, from hindsight now, would argue that if government had gone ahead to pay what these doctors were demanding...
Well, it was for negotiations. It didn't mean government was going to give them exactly that.
But they were coming from that negotiation point to go on strike. They had not taken the final offer like government has done on Sunday. Government has given you a counter proposal, which government says is this final, whatever, agreement. So if that had come and the doctors were like, this is woefully inadequate, we can't live with this, we are going on strike, I'm sure you and I and every well-meaning Ghanaian would have said, government, you can do better, so do something. But when you have tendered in your proposal, which most of us believe is way outrageous, way too much.
Well, that's for negotiations. You don't.
But
start.
you were going on strike at the negotiation point, and that has been our problem.
Okay.
It's
do you mind if I just briefly?
Quickly.
I think first of all, it's important for viewers to know that no doctor or GMA in general is in a fight with politicians. It so happens that the NDC is in government, and the NDC will be the body that will have to negotiate with what? With GMA. Secondly, in as much as doctors are on strike, if Duncan happens to be a doctor and public hospitals are on strike, if he goes for treatment, he's not going to be treated. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. He's a doctor, but if he goes for treatment, he's not going to be treated.
We've heard of a couple of examples.
The argument that I'm trying to make here is that doctors should not, I personally have said that I don't support strikes, but if they have a case and the genuinity of that case depends on where you look at it. For them, they believe that, look, we want 100 gallons of fuel because it is our due. Government will have to negotiate with them and try to beat it down. That said, I believe that even though we are calling on doctors to go back, I think government too needs to take some of the blame. Why am I saying this? Look, at the end of the day, even though since 1933 or 1958, when the GMA was in place, they never had a code of conduct. I mean, I would have expected conditions of service. I would have expected when doctors sounded the alarm somewhere in November. What did they do about it? What did government do about it? What proactive measures did they take in place? Did they put in place? Of course, somewhere, I think yesterday or the day before yesterday, I was watching this your program, Hot Issues with Steve Graham, where he indicated that, look, at home, they came up with a roadmap in dealing with all these aspects of conditions of service, which is, as a matter of fact, the second leg of what what do they call it? The fair wages, the single spine salary issue. Amen. But I think they should have been able to prevent this way before. They should have been able to prevent it, and it becoming more or less. I'm a little bit cautious in generalizing. It becomes a behavior of the NDC government. Why am I saying? You remember the 91 doctors who went to who went to what did they call it? The Controller Accountant General's office for them to be paid. Look at UTAG. Today, as we speak, there's a statement from the Ministry of Education that they are going to pay us. Why should you wait for these things? That is my problem. You know.
Anyway, I want us to focus on a bit of the president's answers to the presenter yesterday about freezing the salaries of the doctors, Dr. Jinapo, and his friends. Well, he wasn't quite clear on it. He didn't stick his neck out to say that indeed we're going to freeze it. But you couldn't really tell the president's position on freezing the salaries of these doctors. Did you feel the same, or it's probably just me?
No, I mean, I feel the same way. I don't think he was very clear, but he was very, very clear on the position of the strike being illegal. He was crystal clear on that. I think it was Honorable Haruna Idrisu that did say clearly also that if they do not go back to work, their salary will be frozen. And when you look at it, I mean, this is on the books. This is not something new. It's actually on the books that when you go on strike, you don't get paid. And this is not the only jurisdiction where you have that. Actually, when you look at many unions and other associations, they have what they call a war chest or a rainy day fund, so that out of the dues and other fees that they pay to the association, when they go on strike, that money is then used to pay them, while it may not be 100% of what they normally get, but it's something that will kind of keep them going till the negotiations and discussions are done. In this particular case, on both sides, I kind of tend to gravitate towards it's better to be kind than to be right. So even though you're right, you have to take, a more magnanimous position where you look at what is best for the good of the community. So that you look at it and say that, look, yes, We may have a point in asking for the conditions of service. Yes, from the government side, yes, it is illegal. But how do we take care of this so that it doesn't get out of hand? Especially when the ultimate price of death, which is irreversible, will be paid by those who are not given the kind of services that they need. Especially now where the doctors are withdrawing emergency services. They've already withdrawn the OPD, and now they are threatening that tomorrow they are going to resign en masse. So what I would appeal not only to the doctors but also to the government is, let's find a common ground. Let's find, something where we can talk about that would benefit. Again, I go back to, the Salifu and then the Kofi and the Ama on the streets. I heard on Asempa yesterday, and it was heart-wrenching. This woman who took her daughter to, I think, Akonfanochi Hospital, and she was crying. She was crying because she was told that they are not going to attend to the child. And one of the, I think, the reporters was asking, "What are you going to do?" And she was saying, "Ninkofia obewu." And in this, I mean, it's just heart-wrenching to listen to a mother, crying for her child. And that is what I appeal to the doctors. That is not to say that your demands or your conditions of service are not important, but for God's sake, let's find a common ground. When you have the Peace Council, when you have the chiefs coming out, when you have the clergy, and you have all manner of civil society organizations coming out and saying that, look, people, let's find a common ground. I think we should be magnanimous and listen so that we can save lives, especially in a case where this becomes the ultimate price, irreversible. When someone dies, you cannot bring them back. Even though after all the discussions, after all the negotiations, you are able to get your conditions of service. So that's what I'll appeal to the GMA and also to the government to negotiate in good faith, find a common ground so that we can save precious Ghanaian lives.
All right. Another thing the president touched on, because he talked about a lot of things, he talks about the agenda for transformation. He touched on your strike action, Dr. Jinapo. And he says...
There's another illegal...
You will now be paid.
So your salary this month...
is in danger.
Is in danger, real danger. But he says that UTAG must call off their strike, and he did admit that indeed the lecturers are entitled to their book and research allowances, as far as we do not have the research fund as yet, and so they should call off their strike. Have you heard anything from your executives?
Not yet, but I think it's important to note, and the last time I did indicate that when it comes to most of the tertiary, the public universities, most of us are on holidays for the regular students. But we, as we did indicate, withdrew just one aspect of what we do at the university, which is teaching.
Which is very, very important.
Which is the core, as a matter of fact. That is the core of what we do. And I say this because we still engage in other activities. As a matter of fact, tomorrow, for instance, at the University of Education, Winneba, we are honoring the former President of the Republic, President Kufuor, with a doctorate.
Yes, and Jibrim
yes.
Of EPP. Yeah, I'm so happy for him.
And we'll be there in congregation. From here, I'm going straight to the university because I have a number of things to do. But if you listen to the President and even other people involved in all this, you realize that the posture when it comes to UTAG has not been that of a confrontation as it happens with regards to the doctors, because ours is a very simple issue, book and research allowance. The President did indicate that, look, I acknowledge the fact that it is your due, it is going to be paid. And today, whilst coming here, I did hear the Ministry of Education, the PRO, indicate that they've been given the go-ahead to make payment. Ministry of Finance is writing to, I think, National Council for Tertiary Education. So within a week or two, that will be paid. So at the end of the day, we wait to hear something from our leadership. Unfortunately, leadership happens to be at Winneba. So I'm happy that this is being resolved, and I hope within the shortest possible time, hearing from our leadership, this issue will be addressed. But Nana, it goes back to what I said the other time. This whole issue of recurrent strike every year when it comes to UTAG is something that should be stopped. I mean, every year you go on strike over the same single thing, book and research allowance. It does not augur well for the integrity of what? Our public universities. Because when we are on strike, it's in the news. If you are somewhere in the States, you want to bring your daughter or son to a university in Ghana, would you be happy to know that every year we go on strike? No. I think government should use this opportunity after this payment to come out with a clear-cut, sustainable policy on this book and research allowance. Now, I'm very, very frank about this issue because, look, this book and research has been in place since 1996. 1996. It was introduced by Rawlings. Rawlings, who happened not to have had a PhD or a professor or whatever, he thought it was that, look, let's give these people book and research allowance so that it will aid them in their job. As at that time, we had only 3 or 4 in public universities. We had University of Ghana, Tech, Cape Coast, and UDS. University of Education, Winneba, where I happened to teach, was not a university, but it was a university college. Now we have about 7 or so public universities. If government thinks that this thing is not sustainable and they want to come out with an alternative, they should do that, and they should do that as fast as possible. For me, as an individual, I think the National Research Fund that is being set up cannot and do not replace what the book and research allowance is meant for. If they are looking at, I think they need to do something about this thing. We shouldn't come here next year and talk about book and research allowance and lecturers going on strike. I don't think it's something that augurs well for the development of this nation.
Okay, do you want to have a bite of it?
Obviously. There's a cycle of labor unrest, like he indicated. And partly, I think government is also to blame for the larger picture. Sometimes you wonder if certain proactive measures couldn't have been put in place to avert some of these needless strikes. That notwithstanding, I think labor in Ghana is also becoming a bit too confrontational. I think so. As happens with UTAG, you would realize that they could have also taken a bit of their time. Because from the last memo, from the last memo, I think I showed the other program. It had gone through the process through the National Council on Tertiary Education, and approvals had been given, which meant that in the next couple of days or weeks to come.
But sometimes it's about communication, because I had the UTAG General Secretary here on the show, and they had not been communicated to. So if you're taking an action, you're working on their demands, you need to inform them at every point in time.
I do
but
agree.
If you're not communicating, then it's safe to say that you're not responding to their agitation.
I do agree with you, but again, like I said, government has not been forthcoming with whatever information you needed. Government was believing that they had communicated through the National Council on Tertiary Education.
Right.
Those memos signed as far back as June, which suggested they were going to pay the monies. And yesterday, the president affirmed that until the research fund is come about, there's no reason they wouldn't pay the book and research allowance to the lecturers, which means that something was in process. The government of the day delayed. Communication was wrong. But what did UTAG also do? Did UTAG make any gestures to say, look, our monies are...
writing.
Well, I haven't seen...
I have seen some of their letters.
She was here with the secretary.
And he showed me the letters. They kept writing,
and
nobody was responding to them.
So in your case, maybe the labor minister will have to rethink your salaries for the month.
No, it's not even a part of the bargaining.
Wait.
Don't bring yourself.
You are striking because the allowance hasn't come.
We are going back to work.
And the minister is saying if you are not working, you are not going to get paid.
We are going back to work.
I would want to see that actually really enforced, because Nana, in the not too distant future, if the minister does not enforce these provisions in the law, which says that if you decided to go on strike, and the strike is either arbitrary or illegal, something should be done by way of your remuneration not being paid, because it is like a unilateral decision. I I wake up one morning, I'm a teacher, I say I wouldn't go to work. A collective number of us are not working. We expect to be paid for work not done. I think the minister should be firm this time. And if the doctors do not call off the strike tomorrow, Nana, I would insist that the number of lives lost, whatever unilateral decision that GMA may have taken, they should pay the consequence for it. In the end, if they also decided tomorrow that the mass resignation as they threatened is the order of the day, Nana, you, me, Doc here cannot stop them. But in the end, like he suggested, they should be magnanimous. You are going to a negotiation. Finish with the negotiation and let the Ghanaian be on your side. But whilst in the middle of it, you call on a strike, and then OPDs are withdrawn, emergency services are everything else is withdrawn. You and I are paying for it, not the politician. I have said if they want to pay the politician, they are in their own coin. Let GMA issue a caveat to their members across the country. If a regional minister, a DC, any political appointee comes by,
they don't even go there.
They don't go there.
No, but
it will not be far-reaching.
no. The private hospitals are still manned by GMA members.
Of course, but that's private.
That's a different
thing.
that's
So let GMA be bold to say any politician who comes through private or public hospital will not attend to you. The public, we do not, have any problem with them. We'll attend to them as we continue to negotiate with them. If it takes them 10 years, I'm sure a large number of the political, appointees will rather suffer, but not using all of us.
I want to move on to another issue. I'm sorry. Security. He touched on this gentleman who was recently incarcerated.
Charles Entry.
Yeah, Charles Entry. And the president yesterday, he was actually very biblical. He quoted Isaiah 54:17, and I hope I'm right. No weapon formed against me shall prosper. Yeah.
Yes, I heard
Well, he didn't say Isaiah 54:17, but I think I know it's Isaiah 54:17. But yeah, his security.
Yeah, I think as His Excellency mentioned, he believes, and I think many of us believe that whatever that is there in terms of security, he feels very confident that he's protected by the Almighty, and that no weapon formed against him shall prosper. But at the same time, as he said, his security detail has actually, started the process of making sure that everything is put in place to protect him. He is personally, as he mentioned also, that with his the type of position that he has, there are people who will not agree with everything that he says. People will take different positions, but he's very confident that his security detail has taken the steps to make sure that he's very well protected. And he got biblical and mentioned about no weapon formed against him shall prosper. But I think one of the things that we have to start to look at is that when you look at what is going on in the country, I'm really actually very, very surprised. I would have expected something like the Charles Entry incident, not in Ghana, not in this jurisdiction. We've not had any history of such, intended or attempted violent activity against our leader of the nation. You've had it happen in the U.S. and other, countries. So I think it is instructive that the president has tightened the security detail around him. I'm sure they're not going to come out and tell us that, yes, we've done this, but you can be rest assured that his personal security and his family's security will be taken very, very well off.
Okay, sorry. The two of you will not comment on this one. We're moving on.
It's a little bit with security. If you look at what happened in Tuabodom yesterday.
I said we'll talk about
okay, benevolent.
You're so smart. We're going to talk about Tuabodom, absolutely.
Yes.
All right, so 6 killed in Tuabodom gun battle. Fighting erupted in Tuabodom near Techuma in the Bunahafo region yesterday, leaving 6 persons dead, 8 others, 4 in critical condition, are on admission admission at the Teaching and Holy Family Hospital. Some masked men in tricycles are believed to have started the shooting, which also resulted in the burning down of some property, including vehicles and houses. The Techiman District Police Commander, Deputy Superintendent of Police, Mr. Peter Sechi, said there had been a deployment of both police and military personnel to maintain law and order in the town. And according to him, no arrest had been made. So that's the story that's coming out of Chibodom. Of course, TV3 had it on the news yesterday, and then at news at 10. And of course, throughout the day, we'll be following this developing story. Not exactly pleasant news. I mean, you wanted to start with it, so of course, you have a go.
You see, we've more often than not discussed small arms and unlicensed guns in the hands of some individuals who may not be either trained or permitted to use those ammunitions. The Charles Entry story is one of such. The gentleman may have carried the ammunition for weeks. As he said, he bought it on the street. It means it's that easy for people looking for ammunition to get them out there. Yet we have a small arms commission in Ghana. You still have the police intelligence. You have the BNI. You have national security. The number of ammunitions, small and light weapons in individual hands, the last time I checked some statistics on it was about 200,000. A whooping number. Nana. We pride ourselves as a people with this. We are peaceful. Ghanaians don't like blood. We don't fight. We don't do stuff. We continue to live in harmony with each other because the system sort of permits us to do so. But I'm telling you, the Ghanaian, just like the Liberian, the Sierra Leonean, can be barbaric and insane. If you look at what happened in Tuabodom, you open, live ammunition and people are dead. And then you run away. Nobody has been arrested so far. Going into an election year, some of us would be alarmed. And we would want to see the police, the BNI, National Security, and the Small Arms Commission from this very day. If they have to move from one hamlet to the other, especially when you go down up north, the number of ammunitions in homes, it's not funny. When you come up here, then also you find land guards brazenly carrying ammunitions. So if they done protecting a particular portion of land and the gun is still lying idle, I'm sure you will find some armed robbery job to do it because the gun needs to be used. So the least provocation, people's lives are going to be lost. I insist that if Charles Entry had gotten as close as to the president's church building with a gun in there, nobody could tell there was a gun coming in. We were fortunate the president may not have been there, the chief justice may not have been there, or else the story would have been a different one because the guy clearly has some insanity somewhere that would easily make him feel he's doing the right thing, though he might be doing the wrong thing. And this number of small arms continue to be in people's homes, people's beds. Land guards continue to wield these small arms. The police are aware. There are places you will go to, the police know, oh, this place, there are land guards here, but they will not go to demobilize them, either for fear of some attacks or some whatever. I think we should be bold for once before 2016. Otherwise, Nanaba, what we saw in 2012, which saw the NPP losing and believing the elections were rigged, and they went to court, they couldn't get what they wanted from the courts. They have sounded several alarms that they wouldn't go to court again. If they wouldn't go to court again, Nana, what are they planning on doing?
Nothing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
you. I would want them to do nothing. I would want the NDC to do nothing.
NDC is also a peaceful party.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But these arms in private individual hands is a danger.
But
going
in
into an election,
though, the Small Arms Commission and the police and the military attempted something up north. They were giving some monies to people to voluntarily give up their small arms. I don't know how far they've gone with that because some were complaining that it was just stipends. I mean, they expended so much on their arms, and we're giving them.
You may go with a moral suasion sort of thing.
Yeah.
Let me pay you. You bring your ammunition. Unfortunately, Some of them may feel my gun is worth 2,000. You are giving me 200. Why would I bring them out?
But it's a start. It's an
I agree,
yeah.
but beyond the moral suasion game, go with some brute force as well, right? Get the military, surround an area, and insist that anybody with an ammunition should declare them now. Also, will enter homes, will enter bedrooms, and probably get the law court to certify that you are going to just get whatever ammunition out of these communities. If they do this, like random communities, Nana, I'm sure they will be able to retrieve 10,000, 20,000 ammunition so that the country continues to be safer. But in this state, where anybody, an insane person like Charles Entry, could get hold of an ammunition, load it with live cartridge, sit in the church awaiting the president's arrival. Nana, you and I know the danger all of us sit there on. I could move my car out here. An insane person with some AK-47 decides to go, be sick. Lives will be lost. The Small Arms Commission should do a lot more than they are doing. If you offer the money, they wouldn't bring it. Use the brutal force, because the state has got all of that.
I think you have a good point. The only thing that I would like to add here is that I think it should be condemned in no uncertain terms that, lawlessness is not tolerated, and it should be shown with brutal force by the security agents to make sure that the perpetrators are apprehended very quickly, because that would send a message out to any others who are thinking of doing something like that. If not, how is it that in the middle of the day, masked men come out and start killing people, shooting people, and then
probably after smoking a parcel of weed, they feel like they think,
but one of the things that we also have to find out is that how do they get their hands on these guns? Who are the manufacturers? Where are they getting them? Are there people who are supplying them, maybe from some of the jurisdictions, neighboring countries who have had some conflicts in the past?
Are also accountable. Really.
That's also another thing. But also we have to look at what is the motivation. Is this some kind of tribal thing? Is this some kind of chieftaincy thing? Is it some kind of some business gone bad? What is it that has brought us to this point? But fact of the matter is that the security agents, especially the police, the CID, and the BNI, have to be up and doing to make sure that this does not become. This is just an aberration. This is not something that is an everyday thing. This is something that is a one-off thing. But we need to make an example out of these people. They need to. How is it that they are out there in the middle of the day and then no one is arrested? I just don't understand that. It does not make sense to me. They were out there. They were seen doing things. And if anything, the police should have been able to apprehend them, to send a message that this is not acceptable, this is illegal, and we will make sure that law and order will prevail in this country.
Dr. Jenna.
It's interesting. I think, first of all, you still stand by your word that I shouldn't talk about the president's security. Okay, let me just. The president has said his security is tight, and I think we should.
You're
just
still
leave it
talking
at
about it.
Okay. I think, first of all, we need
You're a lecturer.
We need to understand what is going on at Tiobodom. Have you been to Tiobodom before?
Yes.
Okay.
I have.
Anybody who has been to Tiobodom and who knows the geographical layout of Tiobodom and where the police station is located will understand and appreciate what is going on. Tiobodom historically have had this chieftaincy rift. As a matter of fact, they have two chiefs, one under Otumfo and one under Techimahene.
So there's Ashanti and
Yes.
then the
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
And when you are going from Techima to Bupe, my hometown, you get to Tiobodom, there's a road that cuts across. Half of it belongs to Asantehene, half. So this whole thing is about chieftaincy. It's about chieftaincy. I mean, when I listened to the chief superintendent of Techima, he said this as a result of what? Chieftaincy dispute. And the dispute has been there for a very long time. And anybody who understands chieftaincy dispute will appreciate how much people will work to get a gun. I happen to have been in the thick of chieftaincy dispute for 3 years. And I know what we had to go through to get guns. And we are not talking of small arms.
Your dad was
Yeah, my dad. I mean, he's still a paramount.
He's
He's
still
a
a
paramount. There was a chieftaincy, this was this cane and blah, blah. We had 2 chiefs at a point in time. We are not talking of small arms. We are talking of AK-47s. AK-47s. Because if you don't, the opponents will attack you. As one of my dad's junior brother was killed. I, for instance, was shot at. You understand? So, in a situation like that, the police are there and they can't do anything, even though they should. Especially when you go to a place like Chobodon, you go to Chobodon, open the town, the police station is some building. Unless the sign that you've seen that police station, you won't think it's a police station. You understand what I'm saying? So, what we are being told today is that a group of young men on motorbikes came round, supposedly from one faction, started shooting indiscriminately at the other faction. It was unprovoked. The people did not know what it was going to, so they were not ready for them. And I think, based on the report that we've gotten, that these were young men on motorbikes. Definitely, some of them will be identified. And if some of them are identified, it happened just yesterday. I do not think the police will be in a position to arrest them immediately. I want to know the commitment of the police in bringing them to book. Unfortunately, when these things happen, the people are shielded under the cover of what? Chieftains. Because you do not want to provoke the other side. You want to keep things what calm. But you see, Nana, moving forward, yes, it is important for the Small Arms Commission to do their job. But you also have to understand the country in which we live in. The country in which we live in. I mean, we first of all do not even have a profile or data on people who manufacture these weapons. Most of them who manufacture them do them under the cover of what being blacksmiths. You get what I'm saying? 2, as I said, in our situation, for instance, it would have been unthinkable for us to say that we are not going to protect ourselves. So even though we know the consequences and ramifications of possessing gun, I, for one, will do everything to make sure I get a gun to protect what? My family. So what I'm trying to say is that, why don't we solve the chieftaincy issue? Do you understand? Why don't we solve it? It's been there for so many years. Why can't we solve it? And by solving it, it does not necessarily mean that you should have one chief controlling the whole of Tebodom. I mean, where I grew up, Fufuso Junction, Damago Junction, we have 2 chiefs. We have the Fufuso chief, who is under my dad. Then we have the Junction chief, who is under what? Kosovo. And they understand and they live in harmony. If that is the approach they want to use at Tebodom, it needs to, because you know very well that this is not the first time. Do you remember once upon a time, a chief was arrested, taken to the Techima Hennes, and it nearly created a tribal war between Bonos and Ashantis. You know, I strongly believe that something needs to be done. I'm not putting the responsibility at the doorsteps of government, but I think government should try to initiate a resolution to this issue. And as much as possible, the police should work as fast as possible to get these people apprehended.
Yes.
And it should be treated as criminal case.
Yes.
You know, it should be treated as criminal. And look at the connection. Where were they taken to Holy Family?
Where the doctor can decide. Anyway, that was just by the way. Anyway, so that's the daily graphic for this morning. I'll move away from the graphic to the Ghanaian Times. Okay, I'll fish it out of here. There we go. Page 4. Is it? No, back page. Back page. Ghana is to supply water to 8... Why are you laughing, Duncan and Dr. Chidabo? Why?
But he's also laughing.
Why are you all laughing?
This morning when I was carrying out
Neither me.
You don't have water either.
I have water.
You will. You have.
Yes,
you have.
I do.
All right. Okay, so Ghana is to supply water to 8 towns and villages in Lomé, Togo in 2017. A memorandum of understanding to this effect was signed between the Ministry of Water Resources, Works and Housing and its Togolese counterpart in Accra yesterday. Samson Ahi, a Deputy Minister of Water Resources, signed for the ministry, while reps from the Togolese Ministry of Water and other supporting partners initialed for their respective organizations. Yeah, so we're going to supply water to Togo. I mean, yay, Ghana. I mean, we are so kind.
Are we?
I mean, they have water challenges. I mean, we have water problems in Ghana. But if you listen to Togolese, it's dire. I mean, we have had some improvement in the water sector. Areas that hitherto didn't have water for decades are now receiving water supply.
That's right.
In Togo, they can't even dream of bringing them water in the next 5 years. So now Ghana to the rescue. In 2017.
I would personally agree to this on one condition.
That everybody gets water.
Everybody in Ghana gets enough water. And again, if it is the desalinated water, like we have commissioned at Teshinungwa, I'm sure we'll have enough from the sea to supply the whole of West Africa if we decided to. But so long as your water bodies continue to dwindle in size, the Akosombo itself sometimes is challenged with water situation. A few of your dams or rivers, they dry every now and then. And there's water situation sometimes in Cape Coast, sometimes in other parts of the country. Though they have the infrastructure, the water itself to supply becomes a challenge. So if in the end Ghana wants to extend supplies to Togo,
it's not for free.
Well, you see, the economic benefit, yes, would be there. But indeed, do we have enough for our own people to want to extend to other countries or other jurisdictions? I have said, if they would want to go for the seawater or treated seawater and supply the whole of Togo, even Cote d'Ivoire, I'm sure we'll make some good returns out of it. But if you are going to go back to the same lakes and rivers, which today is not even given enough to all of us, like I said, Sakumono where I live, water flows through your tap sometimes once in a week if you are lucky. Other times you get it 7 days. It means we are even challenged in the heart of the capital. So if you tell me you are going to extend supplies to Togo, and unfortunately as happened even with our power generation situation, when Ghanaians are sleeping in darkness, the countries that we supply, light or electricity to, Benin and the rest, usually get what they are supposed to get from us. So in the end, if Ghanaians are going to go to bed without potable water, and you are going to now extend pipelines to Togo, and say the same water bodies that must feed all of us must go and feed Togo, then some of us will have a very big challenge with all of this.
But the MOU, about 10 villages in the Volta region will also be benefiting.
You see, Nana, I have said if the Ghanaian situation is better, no, they are part of Ghana.
Yeah.
So once you are done, if the whole of water is supplied or connected, and you are extending to Togo because there's surplus, that is fine. Any economist would agree that once there's over supply, then you should extend whatever. But in the interim, where Greater Accra, the capital, we have challenges. Parts of Volta region, most parts of Brong-Ahafo, most parts of the northern Ghana would still be struggling to get potable water. People will have to drink from same sources as livestock. And you tell me you are taking water to Togo. I think it is really misplaced at the moment, if you ask me.
Dr. Jinakwa.
Well, I think
you don't have water.
No, I don't. There's no pipe at my place.
Oh, so then you were lucky. Actually,
I'm used to it. Yeah, I think there are two issues that emanate from this story. One, Ghana supplying Togo water. What it means is that it's a source of foreign exchange. We are not giving it to them for free.
Absolutely.
Beyond that, as you rightly said, certain communities are going to benefit. So you are killing two birds with one stone. Two, it goes to tell you that relative to other countries, Ghana, even though, like in my area where we don't have water, we are better off. Because for you to import water, it means that you have a serious problem. For Togolese, as for electricity, we understand that it involves a whole lot of, and you have to have a comparative advantage. So for you to import water, it means that it is what is serious. The third aspect is, I've always said, and I've made this argument that, look, when you look at the West African sub-region, including Nigeria, Ivory Coast, and all this, Ghana is better positioned to be the hub of development. We are supplying electricity to so many countries in West Africa. Benin, you remember when we were in serious crisis, the Benin minister, was it the press, somebody came and begged that, look, we should try and give them something small. Today, Togo is asking for water. Burkina Faso, we supply them electricity. what's the name? Ivory Coast. So my argument is that by our positioning and by our socio-economic dynamics, we stand advantageous in what? In being the bed of economic development within the sub-region. Especially when you take something like what? Education. We have an advantage. You know? So I would expect that, look, I have water in my home. I know, this current administration have done quite well when it comes to what? Increase in what? The supply of what? Water in the country. I hope that it gets to my place. But if we have the opportunity to what? To supply these things to most of the countries within the sub-region, I don't have a problem with that. If we can supply water to even Ivory Coast and make foreign exchange, Nana, it's better than we always importing everything. Because we are talking of what? Foreign what? Income. You know, if we can supply electricity to even Nigeria, Nigeria has unstable electric supply. If we can supply
unstable is actually
charitable. When you don't have
no, I agree. Let me. I just didn't want to address. Let me give you a typical example. You go to the United States. I happen to have had a scholarship to study in the US through a program, minority doctoral program. In the state where I happen to do my PhD with the scholarship, I can tell you that less than 1% of the population there have PhD. Does that mean that they shouldn't supply? They shouldn't give to other people? No. We get a lot of donor support from these countries where, excuse me to say, they are broke. But every country looks at its strengths because this supply is going to bring foreign exchange. And maybe based on that, I'll be able to get water. If we want to say we are going to wait for every Ghanaian to get electricity before we supply electricity to Benin, it wouldn't work. You know, so I think it's a good idea. But whilst that is done, it should be done in tandem with what trying to improve the water situation in the country. It should be done at the same time.
I agree. Duncan, what happened to love thy neighbor as thyself?
not more than thyself.
I think I agree with Dr. Jinapo. We have to be, we have to share. And when you look
we are not sharing, we are
selling. Well, by selling, we are sharing. But, we have to also look at it historically. Ghana has taken the lead, not only in independence, but also in providing utilities, electricity to Benin, Togo, and other countries. And I think this administration, the Mahama administration, has really shown its leadership in providing, communities with water and water resources that heretofore has not been available. Communities like Adenta, Ashalibutre, and Medina, who they've been without water for many, many decades. And now water is flowing there. Not only there, but also Fufolso, Sola, when they did this.
Fufolso for 10 years.
Okay.
10 years. We didn't know what was water. It was the hub of Guinea worm. Hub of Guinea worm. Recently, I'm not cutting it. Recently, there was a Guinea worm case there. And Ghana was declared as no Guinea worm.
Yes.
The president, the whole of the country ran there. Do you know why? Because they couldn't understand, not knowing the president had a Guinea worm from Burkina Faso and came there. We used to, you fetch water like this, it's red. You put alum, and it becomes colorless. And you are drinking it, you can smell it. For 10 years, Nana, we live there.
Wow.
So I know Fufu
so whilst we've not
today they have
improved
water.
these,
now they have
why go
water.
to Togo?
Now you have water in Fufu.
I don't live there anymore.
You have water. You have water.
But you've got a nice road. You've got a nice road.
And many other communities have had water, and the investment that this administration has made in those areas have been really, really, laudable and very commendable.
They could do more.
Yes, they could do more. I believe urban water supply is now in the 70s. The coverage is in the 70s, and I think rural water is about in the 60s, 60% thereabouts. So yes, I think we could afford, on a limited basis, after taking care of our needs, also look at what needs to be done to share it with our neighbors. And not only that, not just our neighbors, but also some areas, some villages, as Nana said, in the Volta region would also benefit from this. So we are also helping ourselves by helping our neighbors do that.
We need more water.
Yes, we do. Water is a source of life.
Before Togo, though,
Before to
Be
Well,
nice, Duncan. Be nice.
Of course.
I
We
don't have
got
water in
water
my
first
house.
before.
Nana, I don't have water. If you tell me you are taking to Togo, I
Exactly.
wouldn't agree.
I agree with you.
You're
I
paying
mean,
taxes here. You,
Yes.
you need your water.
And I also pay for it here.
And you pay for
the
it
same
here.
way the Togolese are going to pay for. I pay for
so
it
why
here.
not serve
Why
you?
not serve me?
Be well in due time.
Duncan is the selfish man of the day.
The benefits are coming.
Yeah, the benefits are coming.
Yes,
you can
they are.
see some light at the end of the tunnel.
Oh, yes,
Hopefully, it's not powered by ECG.
Even that is being addressed, from my understanding.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. There's been some improvement, but we're not looking for an improvement. We want
A stable
a
power.
stable power supply.
The president said he was going to fix it. So
Taking too long.
Nana is holding back.
I was going to say something, but I just thought, okay, just let it go. All right, Business Finder will be our last paper. We have just about 6 minutes to go. Industry bears teeth at Bank of Ghana and demands swift action on the city. Businesses in the country are outraged over what they say is the Bank of Ghana's lackluster approach to the stability of the local currency and the exchange rate. The bank must be proactive and minimize the exchange rate volatility. Last month, the cedi recorded an impressive appreciation, that's about 21%, a development attributed to the daily injection by the Bank of Ghana of some $20 million into the money market. The appreciation was, however, short-lived, as the currency has in the past few days lost about 15% to the dollar and other major trading currencies. Well, story goes on and continues on page 3 of the paper. Who starts? Dr. Janapa.
Well, I think I agree with industry in the sense that, this country has become one that whatever happens with regards to our foreign currency affects us directly. And now there's even empirical, what do they call it? You see it because every 2 weeks depending on the CD exchange rate, it affects petroleum.
That's true.
So you go to the pump today, Nana, and you buy it for 15 Ghana a gallon, which is the price as it stands. Next week you go, you may buy it for about 20 Ghana, and it does not augur well for planning. And I believe that, look, one of the fundamental responsibilities of government is to have a stable exchange rate. My position is that, look, if today the CD is 10 CDs to $1, and I know it's going to be that for the next 10 years, it is good for planning.
But it can't be.
No, but what I mean is, the dollar has always been the dollar when you go to the United States. The dollar, I mean, there can be a little bit of changes, but we're not talking of 15, 20%. At a point in time, the CD was devalued for about 30 to 40%, which shouldn't be the case. It shouldn't be the case. So I think the call by industry is something that is worthwhile, it is timely, and Bank of Ghana will have to come up with long-term plans. This 20 million a day, you and I know is something that's not sustainable. Where are you going to take the money from? If there was a policy that was put in place for the short term, fine, but what is the medium and long-term measures that are put in place? I don't think the Bank of Ghana and government in general would be pardoned if they are not able to come out with a clear-cut policy to more or less because we are an import-driven country. Import-driven. Almost everything is imported. So if your currency is not stable, if you do not know what is going to happen tomorrow, how will you be able to plan? You cannot plan. So I think something seriously needs to be done about it, and it needs to be done as fast as possible. This issue of volatility, it does not help the economy.
Duncan.
Okay.
Sorry. Duncan is busy jotting. I wanted to know
I would agree with you, Doctor, that something needs to be done, but we have to step back and look at what this administration is doing.
Sure.
And what has been done so far. When you look at the structure of our economy since even before independence, it has not really changed that much. But this administration seems,
You're in
enforced.
love with this administration.
No, I mean, I'm looking at the facts of what is actually on the ground, what is being done. When you look at what they're doing with sugar, what they're doing with the importation or the reduction of local production of rice, okay? When you look at many other things that they are doing to stem the tide, to reduce the importation, because that is what is really causing the balance of payments to be in the deficit. The more that we're using the dollar, the supply and demand, the more that we demand in the dollar, the more the dollar is going up as the supply is not there. So the issue has to be with what we need to do to change the dynamics, to change the structure of the economy. And I believe until we do that, this 20 million or whatever, the $20 million that is being injected by the BOG is not really going to address the issue. And in terms of the 21% appreciation, this was brought on because of the positive reports that we had from the IMF, from the review that they had. But that, again, is short-lived because we have to go back to the fundamentals and then start to change things so that when you look at the agricultural products that we're doing, that they are semi-processed or fully processed so that we add value, which would then also bring in some more money in terms of foreign exchange and reduce the amount of money that we use in the importation of sugar, the importation of rice, poultry, and all these other things. Until and unless we address those fundamental issues, we will be in that position where we go through the cyclical, appreciation, depreciation, appreciation, depreciation. But then we have to also look at, in fact, sometimes devaluation or depreciation of the dollar of the city is not such a bad thing. If you recall, yesterday, the Chinese government actually...
That's a different context.
Yeah.
Well, it may be a different context.
Different
it may be a different context, but the fact of the matter still remains that the fact that the more that you have depreciation of the city,
of your currency,
it makes your exports a lot more.
But here's the case: we are not exporting.
There are certain things that we are.
We are exporting almost the same thing. We haven't really opened the basket that much.
We are import driven.
But we are beginning to make that change by reducing the amount of sugar, the amount of poultry, rice, and all those other things.
So we'll see the impact it will make.
The baseline is that once there's depreciation of your local currency, it forces cost of living upwards because, like you rightly said,
yes,
fuel costs are going to go up.
But they have in the past 2 weeks. They have gone down, actually.
Because we continue to work.
Because we continue to.
The BOG continues to work. We also continue to work on the sites to ensure these OMCs are at least listening to the consumers, appeal.
But if it starts going up, then
it's not even time yet. It's always 2 weeks.
No, the next window is Sunday. So invariably, if you are not careful,
I better fill my tank.
If you are not careful, it would have to go up.
Extra.
But again, in Ghana, the context is different from the Chinese situation. They are able to manage their BOP, balance of payment issues. They don't have so much of an issue as to how much imports they make. In fact, China is supplying a third of the world today by way of what they produce. They have taken over the global market. So they don't have an issue with their currency. Now you hear the Bank of Ghana saying they were going to introduce the yuan as a currency so that you don't need to convert to the dollar before you buy from China. Most of our supplies or most of our imports, if you go to the ports, it's coming from China.
That's true.
Very few would come from Europe and the Americas. But unfortunately, the yuan is not even a trading currency in Ghana. So whilst we pay lip service to the issues, the real issues confronting the city continue to bite us. And then again, like I said, if the demand-supply factors, we do not look at them. The president says, buy made in Ghana. Parliament says, we'll buy made in China or made in Italy. Right? Other state institutions are importing hugely from outside the country. Meanwhile, you have artisans here who you could put together. If you know you're going to need these office furniture and whatever in 2 years, you could have put them together a year and a half for them to start producing.
The president gave $2.7 million to Ghana cities to some entrepreneurs.
Yes, fun. Unfortunately, you would wonder if.
Okay, let's wrap up quickly.
So whilst the president says buy made in Ghana, a larger chunk of our own monies that we could have retained in the economy to create more jobs, to create more stability of the city,
Yes.
we rather will take it out to Italy, to China, to South Africa, and import.
Right.
Today, if you go to the malls, right, most of what we are taking in ShopRite is going back to South Africa.
That's
If you
true.
go to the filling, the petrol sector, right, we are buying from Shell, buying from Total, buying from the other multinationals.
As well, look
At
at
the end
number
of the
banks
year,
that we have. They are all sending the
most
money.
of them are
So many banks.
Communications is the same thing.
So buy from Royal
we pay lip service.
and Allied Oil. Allied Oil. Yeah, the
There's
cheapest on the
another one.
market.
Quantum is not bad.
Quantum is also low.
Hey, very,
Doc.
very. That's what
I need to find them.
Quantum.
I need to find them. Anyway, thank you very much. Alhaji Haruna Rashid Ibrahim, Executive Director of Development Challenge, Dr. Ahmed Jinapo, lecturer at the University of Education, whenever he's going home from here. Duncan Amwa is the Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers.